Hi everyone, welcome to part 2 of the colour picker videos. Obviously the first one was a kind of a standalone video on anyway. This one is kind of going to tie in with that one. So part 1, I'll put a link just up on the top of the screen there for you to just click through on if you haven't already seen that one. And in that one I just showed literally how you can go in. You can use Paint, but it's a bit more awkward. I use Paint 3D, and you can use other apps, Photoshop. There's other apps you can do this that allow you to go in, pick out a colour in an area, and then drag it out using a brush. So I dragged some of these colours in this squirrel here, and I dragged it out and then filled a bigger block so that you can make the colours more obvious. The squirrel itself, I chose it because the colours are very close to each other, but then when you start dragging them out, as you can see here, you know, we've got different variations of grey, you've got warm, you've got cool, you've got a lovely deep dark indigo blue here. This was one that I pulled out from the background. It's very walnutty brown, and then there's a green there from the background as well. And then we came over and obviously we pulled out some colour from the eye, and that was this beautiful blue being reflected in the eye, which is little things that you might miss. The area just underneath the eye here, around the, I suppose, the eyelid. It's a very pale, like a beigey pink almost. A lovely blue there in the fur. In the ear, quite, I'd say it's like a caput mortem. So what I'm going to do today is just show you another way now that you can then, simply by using a hole punch and a piece of paper, you can then lay that over your selected colours and start to see them more clearly, and then choose your pencils that you need that match up with all of these colours that we've pulled out. So the first thing you need to do is decide what you're going to use as a reference photo. Are you going to print it out, or are you going to do this from your tablet or a computer? Whichever one you decide to use, you've got to stick to it, because otherwise, I'll show you here, this one's printed onto gloss paper, so you can see very clear. This is probably the one I would work with, or I'd print it out on a bigger sheet of gloss paper. This is printed out onto photo paper too, but it's not gloss, it's matte. So if you compare the two, gloss paper always gives you a much more vivid coloration. But if you're doing this from your computer screen, again, however it's calibrated, the settings that you've got, it's going to look different to my colours. So I'm just going to show you how to do this, not the exact colours that you might be seeing on your printout or your screen. So whichever one you use, you've got, you choose to start with, stick to it. Now this one's a little bit small for me to do this demo on, so I think it is. Anyway, let me just try it. Well, I've got a feeling it's a little bit small for me to do the demo, but let's have a look. I need to zoom in, and we'll try and zoom in as close as we can. Here we go. So we want to do, this might work. Let me just try a different area. Yeah, this will work. So what we'll do, let me just look at the image through, we'll do a comparison. Can you see the difference in the colours? First of all, I was just trying to show you there. Green's not too bad. This is on the normal photo paper, and this is on the gloss paper on the left-hand side. But there is a variation, especially in that grey, and these two greys at the top. Can you see just how different the two greys are? And that's the two same greys pulled out, but they just print differently. So I'm thinking that we should be able to do this using the smaller image. Now that I've zoomed in, we're going to use the smaller image because obviously the colours in this image are a lot clearer, much sharper. I'll zoom out a tiny bit until we're ready to start doing the selection. Here we go, and then I'll zoom in when we need to. So I'm going to lay this down. So we're going to be basically getting hole punch, normal bog standard hole punch. You preferably want to do this on the paper that you're going to be using, especially if you're going to use something like toned paper, because toned paper is going to change how your colours look when you lay your pencil down. So if you use like a yellowish paper, it's going to give a yellowish undertone to your pencils. So it's best, if you're not quite sure, it's best to try them out on the paper you're using. This is just a piece of Clairefontaine paint on that I pulled out today. It's just a, sort of normal, pretty much standard white paper. I don't want to have to do loads of layers basically on here. It's just, so you punch your holes, and your holes are just going to be your visual guides. You're going to lay that over your colour, and then what it does is it isolates everything. But what we've done by pulling these colours out, you could do this direct onto your image. So if I show here, you could hole punch. You could miss out, you know, stage 1 of the video. You could literally hole punch. I need to get that just right. Bear with me. There we go. So you could hole punch and lay over your actual image, but if you're doing a small image, obviously you're going to struggle a little bit more to isolate the colours. So what we've done is, because we've gone in on the first video and we've selected a colour here and we've dragged it out using the brush and then filled it out here, we've given ourselves a nice isolated version of that colour. Obviously I can't go in and use my pencils on the photo gloss paper because I'm not working on the photo gloss paper, but what I can do is punch a hole in the paper that I'm using, and then you literally lay that over the top, and that isolates that colour off for you and gives you workspace to then come in and colour match up to. So I'm just going through my pencils looking for a couple of specific ones, because I know I guess I'm fortunate in that I kind of know my pencils really well. I'm going to do this with polychromos. This is what I'm going to colour match with. I'm going to do it with polychromos. I'm just looking for one. My polychromos colours. I could do this demo with any pencils really. It's just to show. You isolate it off. You then come in. Now, to me, this looks quite a bluish dark grey, so I know in my polychromos range that I would be reaching for my Payne's grey or my dark indigo. There's only one other that it could be, and that's the cold grey 6, because it looks a coldish colour to me, not a warm. So all you do is literally you come in with your pencils. Let me just come in here and you start. You could do this on the side of a paper, but by doing it on a circle, by cutting it out, it means you can just work around it. Now, that's looking a little bit bluish. So let's try the Payne's grey, which is kind of a coldish, bluish grey. And what you might need to do is mix some of these together. Now that is looking pretty close. The last one I'm going to think it might be is the cold grey 6. So I'm going to try down here with the cold grey 6. And you want to really just come up to that edge. And what you're looking for is something that pretty much matches. Now, I might mix a little bit of the dark, the dark indigo into that Payne's grey, but at the moment, the Payne's grey looks the closest, but the cold grey 6, which is very close to the Payne's grey, is also a pretty good match. I think the dark indigo is too blue, but you could mix it. So a little mix of this with the Payne's grey would be perfect. Can you see that top one's a little bit too blue? This one is pretty much spot on, but the cold grey 6 is very close as well. So again, have a little play. Mix. I'm going to mix some of the cold grey 6 up here with some of my dark indigo. And if you haven't got the closest pencils like this, if you haven't got the 120 set, if you've been doing the draw-alongs with me, then you know that you can mix your colours as well. It's not a problem. So you'd probably take a blue, because it's got a bluish tinge to it. You take a blue, a touch of black, a touch of white in there maybe if you've only got a set of 12, and just mix them until you're mixing your shades and you've got that dark bluish grey that you want. But like I say on here, I just think that Payne's grey was a pretty good match to begin with. So what you're looking for is as close a match as possible between that and this on your laydown of the paper that you're actually going to be using. Like I say, if you were doing this on I don't think you do. Well, you might do this squirrel on a brown, because it's got lots of brown undertones running through it as well. So you just need to compensate then of laying down your grey onto a brown. If I've taken that too dark as well, I mean the paper is reflecting a little bit of my overhead lights, you can just come in with a lighter grey and soften it up again. So let me just try that on a different area. Let's have a look what other colours we've got. We'll try it on a paler colour. And also we've got, we come down here, can we see this? It's brown, we've got this green here. So let's have a look at the green. I'm going to dive into my greens. Now, let's pull out. So I'm looking in my greens. I'm just going to pull out the three dark greens that I've got here, and we'll just lay them down and see how they match up. One's quite a brownish green. That's the olive green, yellowish there. I've got a pine green, and then I've got this one which I think is too bright. It's a deep cobalt green. I've got a feeling the pine green is going to be the closest. It might need a little bit of grey mixing in there as well. So what we're doing is looking for the colour that's closest in your pencils to match up. So let's bring in the couple that we don't think are going to be it first of all, which is the olive green yellowish. I think it's going to be too pale, and as it says in the description, it's too yellow. Could have done with sharpening it up a bit. It's a little bit of a pale brownish yellow, and to be honest, it's warm. That green is quite a cool dark bluish green. See, it's not a match at all. So let's come in underneath. Oops. With our, this is the deep cobalt green, and again, this is going to be, yeah, too bluey green. We want something that's got a shade in there, and we can mix like a dark brown or something. So just think about what will mix with these to take it darker. You could take this one darker, but again, it's way too, dare I say it, bluey, greeny green. So let's come in now with the pine green, and let's see how this one matches up. So again, it's going to be a little bit too pale. So we know we need to add a shade in there. We don't want to add black, because black will flatten it pretty much. But that is a pretty close to the green that I want. That top one is, yeah, the yellowish green does work. So what I would do here is look and think, okay, I need to darken it up. My darkener that I prefer, let me fetch it out, is my, if I can find one, here we go, is my dark sepia. So I would come in and mix, start to think about mixing these, just taking it down a shade. So remember, when you add a dark, you're taking it down a shade. Usually it's when you add a black, it takes it down a shade. So that might have got taken it down a little bit too much. And keep note of these as well. So here we're using, what's it? Pine green. So you only put down 267, followed by 175. And then if I come in again, possibly with my pine green over the top again, or I might even come in with a touch of that yellowish green up there over the top. So 173. So I might just layer a little bit of 173 over the top. Obviously this paper isn't going to take as many layers, but then you're starting to get close to what you're looking for there. And it's just starting to match up. That definitely doesn't. That definitely doesn't. But it could just be a hint of it in there. And it's just about mixing these up. So I put down then another layer of 267, followed by a little layer of the 173. And that way you can just come back in then to your little chart that you've made, and you know that that's the order that you put them down in, and that's the effect that you got, and that was the closest one. Same as up here. We used, well, we decided pretty much that our Payne's Grey, which I've got back in my box, and also I do not know the number. Can you see the number has come off there? So if I just put in there, I put in Payne's Grey. Payne's Grey, and I know that that is what is the closest, possibly of a little bit of dark indigo, so I may put dark indigo in there as well. So I'm going to come over and do one of the paler ones now. Let's have a look at one of these blues that we pulled out of the eye. So we've got the eye there, so let's come down into the eye. And you just work these for all the colours that you've pulled out. So to me, I know I've got ultramarine, so we've got sky blue, light ultramarine. I'm just going to pull these out now as well. So I've got sky blue. I've got a light ultramarine. So look at the rest of my blues, and I'm going to pull out the ultramarine. And those are the three I would automatically head towards for creating this blue. So let's do exactly the same thing again. We'll pop one above, one below, and then the one we think it might definitely be, or the closest one, to the right hand side. So this is the light ultramarine, which I think is going to be too light. Yeah. So it's kind of the rightish colour, but it is too light. There's not enough saturation there. So let's come in underneath with, just saying that, I'm going to come in with that ultramarine. I've got a feeling, you see, it's somewhere between ultramarine and light ultramarine. And I've got a feeling the ultramarine might actually be the closest one. Or it might be too blue. Actually, it's looking a little bit reddish blue, so almost purpley blue. So if we did use that one, we'd want to mix it. We'd want to knock it back with something like a warm grey, the two mixing together. So I'm always thinking then, you know, which ones are going to mix together. So this is the light ultramarine now that I'm going to pop down on this right-hand side. And this is the one I thought was going to be closest to the underlying colour, and then we just need to change the tone. Okay. So now I'm going to bring in, so I need to look now, I need to bring in, I think, something like a warm grey. So let's just take note that we've got here on the right hand side is our light ultramarine, which I think still is the closest. I'm going to put in there 140 there on the right hand side. Now, which warm grey do we want to put in? I'm thinking warm grey 4 or possibly a warm grey 3. The warm grey 4. I seem to be getting drawn to the warm grey 4 each time. The 3 does look quite pale. If I show you the two, so you've got your warm grey 4 at the bottom and then a warm grey 3. So I'm just going to come up here and see. I think I'm going to go in with the warm grey 3 and just mix some of that in there. I hope that the paper is going to take a little bit of the layering. Maybe I should have done this on pastel mat after all. Yeah, I don't think the paper's going to take the layer as much. So let's try a little bit of the warm grey 4 over the top. I think maybe that warm grey 4 has helped. Yeah, so if we were doing this, like say, on pastel mat, we would get more layers down. So what I'll do, I'm just going to move this off to one side. In fact, I'm going to come back up, I'm going to do another one. What I'm going to do is lay here a real light layer of the warm grey 4 down, because we know these two are going to work nicely together. So there's a nice layer of the warm grey 4, and then I'm going to come in with that light ultramarine over the top. That is getting there for me. So I know that on paper that will accept the layers. In fact, I've got a teeny tiny bit here actually of pastel mat. I'm going to punch a hole in it because the lighter layers just aren't seem to be going down on the paint on quite as well. So let me just literally punch a hole and a little piece of pastel mat, and we'll do this blue one once more using the pastel mat. So you'll see instantly as well that this pastel mat, even though it's bright white, see the difference in colour between this pastel mat on the top and the paint on. So the paint on is true bright white. The pastel mat in comparison isn't quite so. So I'm going to put down a light layer of our warm grey 4, followed by our light ultramarine. Okay, and I'll repeat that. So I'll do another light layer of our warm grey 4. I'm doing a really light layer of the warm grey 4, and then just a few layers of the light ultramarine over the top. Because the blue, if we want it more blue, we just want it a greyish blue. So there we go. I wasn't working on the paint on quite as well. Maybe I should have just done the demo on the pastel mat after all. But that's starting to come through now. You just keep repeating the layers. If you need to lighten it up a bit, you could either come in with like sky blue over the top to soften. Or if you needed to take it up the shade a little bit, you can come in with a little bit of the warm grey 3. So you know that all these pencils are in the right area of what you need. So just mix and play with them until you get a nice match that you're happy with. I might have taken it too grey now. So let's just come in with some ultramarine over the top again. Let's bring back the blue. And you need to lighten it, a little bit of sky blue. But like I say, mix all of these and just keep an eye on your results and, you know, the pencils that you've used to get there. But that is literally how to do it. Should we do one more? And I'll do it actually on the pastel mat again. This will teach me for not trying the pastel mat out first. I think it's because that other paper, the paint on, was just so bright. I thought, oh no, we'll do it on there. So which other one shall we do? I'm thinking we've got this. This is quite a difficult one here. This one here. So it's like a beigey. Now, if I was using a Pablo, I'd know exactly which Pablo to go to. I've got Pablos that match pretty much that exactly. But let's have a look. So this, to me, my closest pencils that I've got is kind of like a fleshy colour. But it's a very grey fleshy colour. And it's a warm grey fleshy colour. So my fleshy colours are... Let's pull them out. What have we got? So to me, we're looking... Oops, that slipped off. We're looking at these here. Let's put those two away. So we're looking at possibly a bit of cinnamon, a bit of light flesh. We're slipping. So cinnamon, light flesh, and grey. Now the cinnamon to me is too bright. I'm thinking the light flesh and the grey. So these two here, the light flesh and the grey, are looking like the mix of the two. Possibly bring some white in there. These two here look like they're going to work the best. So let's just come in with these two. So here's the light flesh going down. So on its own, it's too bright. Yep, too pinky. So let's come in. I've got the warm grey 2 here. I might need a warm grey 3. Okay, I've got a feeling I need a warm grey 3 in there. Yep. So a little bit more of our light flesh. I'm going to grab the warm grey 3. Warm grey really makes it quite almost like dirty looking. I'm going to find a warm grey 3 again now. Here we go. That's a warm grey 3. So let's come in with a warm grey 3. And it's almost looking a little almost like purpley to my eye now. It's like, do I bring in a purple, a magenta? I'm going to stick with what I know. You could bring in a little bit of caput mortem into the mix. Add a little bit of, if you feel like it needs to be a little bit bluish, a little bit purplyish, just start to bring in a touch of that as you work. Again, just build your layers nicely. So again, when you add the glaze of the light flesh, it takes it back to way too pinky. So I'm going to come in again now with that warm grey 3. That's starting to mix, to form. Obviously we need a lot more layers to smooth it out, but that is starting to mix, to form the colour that I'm looking for. Now, I was saying about bringing in something like caput mortem. So let me just bring in something like caput mortem, which is a real reddish burgundy. Okay, so that is just going to add a little touch more red in there. So you can see it's gone quite red. So I'm going to come in now and go over the top with, this is a warm grey 2 now. So again, all we're doing is still using those same initial pencil choices. But just, if we feel like it needs a little bit of oomph, a little bit of blue, a little bit of red, a little bit of purple or something in there, bring it in. Keep track of what you're doing. I tend to keep the pencils in my hand as I work. And the beauty of the pastel mat and those lovely layers means that we start to pull this together to create the shade and the colour that we are looking for. I want to dirty this up again, so I'm going to bring in the warm grey 3. See how many layers it will take though, a little bit of the warm grey 2. And this might look like a little bit of a chore, but this will get you used to mixing your colours as well. So now what I'm going to do is actually, if I can find it, my pencils all need sorting. I need someone to come and sort all my pencils out for me. Grey 3, warm grey 2, maybe. Warm grey 1, where are you? Wherefore art thou? Warm grey 2? I think I've got loads of warm grey 2s in here. Okay, that's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in over the top with, this is my ash grey, which is a Pablo, but it's there to hand. I'm actually going to bring that in over the top, and again, now you can just see you can really lighten it, but to me that just needs a little bit more, maybe, if that could put mortem popping in there. Can you see it's got a little bit too light and grey? So I wouldn't hesitate to come in with another light glaze. That could put mortem, just to pinkify it up again. This might look really tedious, but this is how you get to learn how to mix these colours, how to build your layers on the pastel mat, and how to gain confidence really with it all. And how to see, you'll start to match. I'm having to come up and look on the camera as well at this as I'm doing it. But that could put mortem, might look a little bit scary going down, but as soon as you come in with a light pencil over the top, see how much it softens it back again. Yeah? So, I know it's just a quick little demo there. Well, a little bit longer than I thought, but that literally is how you can use the initial colour picking tool using the Paint 3D or Photoshop, or however you can use a colour picker selection tool, and then come in with hole punched in a piece of paper, lay it over the top, and then colour match it up. And then, like I say, just keep track of the numbers of your pencils that you're using as you go along, and that should help you. I mean, like I say, because once you get to know your pencils, you'll soon learn that in some of your brands you can pull out instant match colours. I think I've got, I'm just trying to look at my Pablos here. I've got a lovely base, and I think if I mixed 2 pencils together, so I've got this one and this one, so I've got here, let's rush off. I think this is a brownish orange and an ash grey. So where I was doing this mixing over here of these two here, I know that these 2 pencils, if I just come back in again, these 2 pencils mixed together, only because again I know my pencils, so this comes with practice. So I know that this brownish orange mixed with multiple layers between the 2 of my ash grey, that is going to give me this colour that I was trying to achieve with lots of different colours in my polychromos. But I know with my polychromos, as long as I pull out the ones that are closest and then mix between them using my greys to bring, you know, up and down the tones, then I can get there. But the Pablos, again, if you know between your brands that you've got a couple that closer match in one brand and you're happy knowing how well they mix, then just go in and pull that one out. And that's what I mean, you can just mix between all of your brands to what suits you best. So that wasn't the most formal of videos, but hopefully that will just show you how we can really simply use that colour picking tool. Pull out the colours, isolate them off, punch a hole in your working sheet of paper, and then use your pencils up against that hole. Again, if you're doing it over a screen, if you're doing it on a tablet, you just lay your punched hole over the screen of the tablet or your printout, and keep it to one side as reference all the way through. And over time, you get to learn. You learn your pencils. You know that your hand will just go straight out. And you know, I was looking there all the time, like, where's my warm grade 2? Where's my warm grade 1? I knew which ones I needed to pull out. And it's just something that comes with time and practice of understanding and knowing your pencils and the range, and then all the other ranges as well that you've bought or intend to buy. Okay, so I hope that helps a little bit. Please do give the video a thumbs up, and also please do subscribe to my channel if you've learnt anything there. And thank you very much for watching, and I'll put the link to the other video up at the end as well, just in case you did miss it. Okay, thanks guys.